welcome to today's paint box lesson. We're here in Louisville, Kentucky at my studio, and I have a guest student and artist with me today, and that's Kathy. And she's been painting with me for how long?
8 years.
8 years. She knew that right off the bat. A lot of my students all ask me when they're like, 8, 9, 10.
Well, Emma and I were just talking.
Okay. And Emma is here. She's my new assistant, and she's going to be helping us with the filming. And yeah, Emma, you can pop in there and say hello.
Hello.
So today's lesson, well, I need my assistant already. I forgot to have the painting over here, the little girl there. So today's lesson is our little summertime girl at the beach and playing in the sand with her pail. And I asked Kathy to come work on this project with us because she spends a lot of time in Florida at the beach. And you've taken your kids there a lot, right?
Yeah, they've grown up going there.
And you had 3 children, two girls and a boy?
Two boys and a
Two
girl.
boys and a girl, I
Yeah.
always get that wrong. And so she can relate to the little girl playing on the beach, and actually this looks like my little daughter, Ellie. Well, she's 29 now, but she looked just like this on the beach with her little dark hair and her braids. So we're gonna get started. I'm trying to keep this lesson easy because I know you all, if this is your first lesson and most of you all are beginners, you're thinking that it's really hard to paint a person. But I'm gonna keep it really simple and we're gonna just knock it into some little basic shapes as you draw her, and we'll get started on that drawing lesson. Okay, Kathy, are you ready to get started here?
I am ready.
Okay, so as Kathy was saying during our break, that she's never painted with these water-soluble oils. So this will be new for her, along with those of you who are painting for the first time, for the first project. The first thing we're gonna do, Kathy, just get your brush a little bit wet with the water.
Okay.
So I keep this water and paper towel handy right next to me. And I get the brush a little bit wet, and we're going to use yellow ochre to do our drawing. So that's the kind of mustardy yellow right here. We're going to just thin it down with just a tiny bit of water so it will move a little easier to draw.
Okay.
And what I do is I start every project like I would start a drawing lesson. I want you to mark what we call parameters. So let's just mark our little halfway mark on each edge of the canvas. And those little dots kind of help us judge where things go. For example, that we can see that the girl is to the right of center. And I think, first thing, let's draw the horizon line in. And I think that's at about the 1/4 mark. So just gonna come across straight with that horizon. A lot of times students will bring a picture in that they took at the beach, and if you hold your hand crooked, the horizon is crooked. And I'll tell them, no, they say, no, that's the way it looks. I say, no, I think all the water would run off the planet if, if the horizon was tilted like that. So now I'm gonna come down to, I guess it's pretty close to the 1/4 mark, or a little lower. Maybe let's go a little lower than the 1/4, just a tiny bit lower than the 1/4 mark, coming across with where the sand and the water meet. And now we're going to start with the girl. So I can see here that her top of her head's about an inch down, and she is I would say it's just to maybe about 1/3 of the way from center. I'm going to come down an inch, and that's the top of her head. And we're going to just draw that circle, a little circle for her head. So when I teach a drawing class on the figure, or really on anything, we break things down to their basic geometric shape. So a circle for the head, even though it really might be more of an oval, but then I'm going to just take her body shape, and let's just draw a long rectangle. So actually, she's got a long torso here with and then let's bring the 2 legs down so her feet are at the edge of the water here. I have a little space between her legs. There's a little water showing between her 2 legs. And then we're gonna come from the top of that little box, just bring out an arm. So although this could be a picture of my daughter years ago, or one of Kathy's, or Kathy's daughter, I did get this photo off of a royalty-free stock photo website, and I pay a couple of dollars for the right to use a stock photo, so I'm not doing any copyright infringement. So I just brought the two arms out kind of at an angle from the body, and then I'm going to draw a little box shape, sort of a little box that's narrower at the bottom, and that's going to be the pail. And I think, honestly, that is about how simple this drawing is. So your circle, a long rectangle for the torso, add the two legs and the two arms coming at an angle, your horizon line and your beach line. And we'll take a break and pause. You can pause the video and get caught up on the drawing, and we'll see you back here at step 2. Okay, we are back for step 2, which is going to be the background. We're going to paint in the sky, the water, and the sand. Kathy commented during the break that breaking that body down into those simple little circles and rectangles was a really easy way to do it, and hopefully you all found that at home too. And when I teach my drawing classes, that's what we do. We just break things down into simple geometric shapes. If you go online and take some drawing classes, I'm sure that's how they'll get you started. So now we're going to start with the sky, and that's going to be an easy one for us to do. I'm going to make 2 shades for the sky. In reality, the sky does get lighter as it gets closer to the horizon. So evidently when you're looking straight up, you see through fewer dust and moisture particles. As you look way towards the horizon, so your eye comes down into the sky, there's more dust particles and moisture that you're looking through, so the sky will almost always be lighter towards the bottom, closer to the horizon line. And that's also why you get sometimes those beautiful sunsets with different colors, because it depends on how much moisture and what other particles are in the air. But we are going to just, using the end of your knife, it's kind of like I refer to it as like a spatula in the kitchen. So it's only bendy on that front end. So that's why you want to keep all that paint up here on this first inch or so. Just sort of like a spatula in the kitchen. You can't get it, you can't use it way back here towards the handle. So I'm just going to take the tip of my palette knife, pick up some white. I'm going to come over here to this first of the blues, that's cerulean blue, and that actually, the word means sky. So we are going to use that as our sky blue. Wow, that is really strong. You know, every brand is different, and I forget how strong. So when I say I'm going to take a little white and just a tiny speck of that cerulean blue. I don't know if you had that problem already, Kathy. It's
Yes,
pretty.
I had to do what you always do, that little trick where you pull half of it away.
You see that I picked it up. When a pile goes wrong, I see students trying to fix it and fix it and fix it, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as they're trying to experiment with how to fix it. So I usually just put it over here, take a little bit, and try to fix a little at a time, and it just works out a little better that way. So I have 2 shades of blue. Like I said, the one that's a little lighter towards the bottom, and then one that's going to be a little darker up towards the top. And now, if this is your first lesson, I'm going to talk about how to hold your brush. We don't want to clamp down on it and draw with like it's a pencil. We want to use that length of that brush, and your brush stroke will come from the shoulder and not from your fingers. So I'm going to sweep like I'm sweeping with a broom and pick up that paint, and I'm going to hold my brush very shallow to the canvas, very low, instead of like a 90-degree angle, because that again would be more like drawing. So we're going to start spreading this paint, and as Kathy knows, I'll say quite often, you never want your brush to touch the canvas. there should be a layer of paint between the brush and the canvas, spreading between the two at all times. And I'm going in, I sometimes use these little crisscross brush strokes. I'm gonna take the darker color and come up here to the top. Yeah, I picked up a little yellow ochre as well. Now the yellow ochre should be drying from our drawings, should be drying pretty quickly, but of course yellow and blue make green. So a little bit of that yellow ochre, if it gets into your paint, your sky's gonna get a little greenish cast, and we won't worry about that. We can fix it later. The nice thing about oils is everything can be fixed later. And Kathy was even saying, I asked her if she felt like she was done with her drawing, and she said, as ready as I'll ever be. And that's something that we all learn in here, is that you could keep working on step one for hours, or you can just move on. So I will always encourage you all to just move on, because Kathy has learned from painting quite a while now that the first 2 or 3 steps in oil painting, they do matter, but they're not gonna always completely resemble the final step, because oils are so opaque. Each layer and each step you put on covers up the previous step. So when we get to our last step today, we can come back and come over on top of anything that we feel like we need to change. And I don't think you can do anything like that in watercolor. Or I've done quite a bit of pastels, and you could probably do that, but oils are so great and actually easy for that reason, is because you can come back at the very end and make any changes that you need to make. And that's why I always tell everybody, just keep moving, go to the next step, because what I call working the magic, all that wonderful, beautiful things, those things you want to happen on the painting come in at the very last step. So don't worry about these first steps. And Kathy's one of my favorite painters to work with for many reasons. But she's become quite advanced in her painting and her technique and her problem solving that comes in at the end of a painting and those last steps. And we have a lot of fun working together. She just finished an absolutely beautiful painting, which I will insert in the video now. It was from a trip she took a few years ago with her family. I believe they went
many years ago.
Has there been many already?
Well, that's my daughter, and she was probably 3 years old in the painting, and she's 26.
Oh, no, I was going to insert the Spain painting.
Oh, okay. I thought you did the one of Emily.
Oh, I am going to insert the one of your daughter on the beach. We talked about that. I'll insert that, but I also want to show you this painting she just finished of a trip to Spain and I guess Israel? Egypt? Where'd you go?
Well, that was a different trip.
That was, I'm combining trips. Oh, the Spain trip. I remember you telling me about that. That just, you saw so many beautiful things. But in that painting Kathy just finished, it's quite complicated. And at the end, we worked out a lot of compositional issues and little tricks and things. In fact, I ought to put when I insert that photo, I'll put some information about the things we did at the final stages, so people can see what all that final editing is all about.
Well, there were even some things in there that we had to totally change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing we get to do as artists, is totally take artistic license. All right, I'm going to start with the water. And the water, this first blue I said was cerulean, and actually the word cerulean means sky, so quite often we use that for the sky. The second blue is called ultramarine, and that means deep sea, or kind of a marine blue, kind of a navy marine blue. So we're going to use that for the water. I think I might use, actually I think when I did this the other day, I'm going to take just a little bit of the cerulean to soften that ultramarine blue. It makes it a little bit less intense. So the first blue, the darkest one against the horizon, is ultramarine blue with just a little bit of cerulean in it. And that's for this darkest blue back here. The second shade I'm going to make, I might do about 50-50 of the cerulean and ultramarine. And then I'm going to put a tiny bit of white in there to kind of lighten it up and see what color we have. That's really pretty.
Does the water soluble paints, does it go further than the?
It doesn't, but I feel like it's often more translucent. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And I feel like with this brand of paints that I've been using, they don't get pasty. I tried a couple other brands before I launched the box, and those brands I found after a little while got pasty, as in maybe the water, the binder in the paint is a water-based and it would dry up a little bit.
Okay.
So the oil that they're using in this Marie's paint, I think it's stays very oily, which is nice. But it does sometimes trip up some of my guest painters who come in because it has a little more of a transparency to it.
Okay, oh, interesting.
So I made two colors. I've got one that's leaning a little darker blue. This one, then I'm getting a little more, this is the one that was 50-50, the two blues.
Okay.
Then I'm gonna make one that's got a little, I'm gonna take 1/3 cerulean, 1/3 ultramarine, and then 1/3 viridian. Or I'm sorry, phthalo green is what, it's actually the same thing, phthalo, viridian.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put a tiny bit of white in there, and it's gonna make this pretty aqua color. And so those are the three basic colors. I'm gonna just kind of drag some white in as I get down towards the bottom into those colors.
That is pretty.
So.
That looks like a little Caribbean.
I know. And you know, we spent a lot of years going down to the panhandle of Florida, and I think Kathy went a little further south in the Naples area.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know so much in the Naples area, but I know in the panhandle area, the water can sometimes be absolutely Caribbean blue. It just absolutely intensely Caribbean blue. And of course you don't see that on the Atlantic shore really, although David and I were at Hilton Head, South Carolina on the Atlantic shore recently, and we did see some very aqua blue water. I just don't feel like you see it as much on that side, on that coast. So Kathy, when your children were little, they loved to go to the beach.
Oh yeah, they, you know, that is.
They couldn't wait.
Could not wait, and we just, you know, it's become just like a retreat kind of place for our family.
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
Now I'm doing, the nice thing about, or the interesting thing about oils is because they are thick and sculptural and structural and the brush strokes stand up. So in watercolor, they're all flat, but in oil, we can have them stand up and the direction of the brush stroke becomes part of the creation. So I'm using long kind of horizontal brush strokes to look like the water, you know, because water is very heavy. Even though there's waves, there are waves in it, it's generally always going to have a kind of a long horizontal look to it. So, and here I am picking up just a little white here and there, Kathy, and dragging it through that blue, and it just makes like little waves.
Okay.
So I'm using mostly horizontal brush strokes, and especially to see the difference in color in those three colors we made, if you add a little white. And I'm just going up to the drawing as close as I can. Not really dipping into that, touching that yellow ochre paint very much because it's still drying. And Emma is joining us, like I said, today, and she is studying music therapy. Do you play a lot of instruments yourself?
I play guitar.
Okay.
And I sing.
Oh, you sing.
Yes.
Wow.
But
That's
you're not asking me to sing for you.
Okay. That's a talent I don't have.
I was just gonna say, I have so much appreciation for that because I can't
Wow.
carry a tune.
No, I can't either. I can't carry a tune, and I better just stick to drawing and painting.
I think anyone can learn to sing though.
Really?
Well,
you feel that way?
You know, I say the
Yeah.
same thing in art. And people will say, oh, I can't draw, I couldn't paint, I don't know how to draw, I can't do anything creative. And I say, well, you just have to learn. You take lessons and you learn.
Yep.
And I say that quite a bit, that just like people can learn to play the guitar, the piano, they can learn to paint. I don't know about learning to sing. I think,
I think you have to have some natural ability, don't you think? I mean, I
but I guess if you understand it, I mean, if you begin to understand, I think with anything, the more you understand it, you could probably have the ability to, maybe I could be better at singing. When I was in high school, they always used to say in music class, oh, wonderful, you sing harmony. I'm gonna put you over here. And I was like, I didn't know what harmony was, but they used to always tell me I was singing perfect harmony. So somehow I think I was just kind of off key. I mean, I remember thinking, I don't even know what that means. And this is really, have you gotten to the part, Kathy, where you're dragging the white through there?
Yes, I'm trying.
It's so pretty. And you can see, in fact, I'm going to add quite a bit of white down here as the waves get closer to us.
Okay.
The water's getting, shallower, so you're seeing some of the light sand coming through. You know what? I will insert the picture I have right over Kathy, over your right shoulder in the studio, is the one of Ellie playing on the beach when she was a tiny baby. And she,
yes,
I'm going to insert a couple
so
pictures.
sweet.
That day, she was sitting there grabbing handfuls of sand and putting them in her mouth and just crunching away. And you can't imagine, that must just have been terrible.
Yeah. That was
And-
always our indication when the kids were hungry. I guess they're hungry, we better feed them.
They're eating sand. But I remember thinking, and then I have the cutest picture of her, in fact we used it at the rehearsal dinner, of her sitting there at the beach with a big handful of sand, and sand's all over her face, and she's just eating it like it's, chocolate. Ugh. I guess I wasn't being very health and safety conscious.
It's all natural, right?
Yeah. I have another little video of Ellie when she was little. I was making dinner, and she was teething, so I had given her a popsicle, and she was crawling on the floor. I think she was doing that half crab crawl with one leg up and one leg down, and she had the popsicle in her hand, so the popsicle is kind of hitting the floor as she's crawling. And my kitchen floor wasn't always really clean. And then she got over to our dog, with big white American Eskimo dog, and she starts giving the dog hugs with the popsicle in her hand. And so it's now covered in dirt and dog hair. And so of course I had to grab the camera. And I was videotaping her, and my kids were like, Mom, why didn't you you got the camera? Why didn't you take that dirty thing out of her mouth? It's like, oh, I did eventually.
That's cute.
Like they say, by the time you have your second child, you're not worried about every little piece of dirt on the floor.
No. Or dog hair or whatever.
Exactly. And Kathy, speaking of children, Kathy has a grandchild due next week. Hey, by the time I make this video, I'm gonna grab some white here. By the time I make this video, I might be inserting a picture of Kathy's new grandbaby.
Gosh. It's just so hard to imagine.
Did you say that they know what
It's a little girl. Yeah, so here we are painting a little girl on the beach.
and you're gonna have
Emily's a blonde, she's not dark.
Well, we might have to paint your painting with a blonde, and mine would be my little brunette Ellie.
There you go.
Speaking of my little brunette Ellie, she is here in Louisville today. She just moved to Lexington, but she's here today to go to the airport with her new husband to head out on their honeymoon to Greece.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe I'll insert a picture of them too in
There
Greece.
you go.
So with COVID, they had to postpone the honeymoon like 3 times because they couldn't travel. And I know some of the countries are shutting down again, so I think they're gonna get this trip in under the wire. I'm gonna go ahead and take a break here, and we'll let everybody get caught up, and then we'll come back and we'll start the next step, which is going to be the sand. Okay, Kathy, are we ready to start the sand?
Ready?
All right. So I'm going to make 3 shades for the sand. Emma, would you mind? Oh, I've got it here. Maybe Kathy, do you need some more white at this time? You probably do.
Yes.
See, we should have done that during the break. All right.
Thank you.
I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the white, sorry, that's white. And I'm going to put in just a little speck of the burnt umber brown. That's the just plain dark brown, not the reddish brown, but the plain dark brown. Burnt umber. So burnt umber and white, that's gonna be the first shade. That's the lighter color of the sand. Then I'm gonna pick up some more white. I'm gonna do burnt umber and a little ultramarine, which is gonna make that kind of a grayish, a little more of a grayish sand. And then I'm going to make a dark color that's going to go kind of right where the water and the sand meet. And then for that one, I'm going to take a little ultramarine and umber and add just a little bit of white. That turned out pretty good. Just kind of a neutral gray for the kind of shadow areas in the sand. So pause the video if, I make my colors kind of fast because I've been doing this a long time. So just pause the video and make those colors. You can refer to the tutorial, the paper tutorial, to see what those mixtures were. But the first one is white with a little burnt umber. The second one is white with a little burnt umber and a little ultramarine blue. And the third one is I reversed that. I did ultramarine and umber and added just a little white. So I'm going to pick up the lightest color, and this brush stroke I'm going to use here in the sand. I'm going to do maybe kind of a little more textural, kind of little choppier crisscross strokes. That real powdery beach on the Gulf side, right, Kathy?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sand is so pretty on the Gulf side of Florida. So different than the Atlantic side. And like I said, I love the Atlantic side near Hilton Head and Kiowa, South Carolina, but the fluffy white sand on the Panhandle and Gulf side is just the best. Emma, where has your family gone on vacation? Do they go to Florida at all, or up north, or?
We have been to Hilton Head a couple of times, which I really like.
Yeah.
We've been to Florida. I haven't been to Florida with my family since I was little, probably, but we used to go to Destin a lot.
That's where I picture this,
Yeah.
at Destin, Florida. With those powdery white beaches, they're just, there's nothing like them. They're so fluffy.
Yeah. And I'm actually supposed to go to South Carolina and like the Outer Banks.
Okay, I've never been there.
I'm supposed to go there in August, so I'm excited. We went last August and I really liked it.
Okay, see, I've never, in fact, David and I were trying to talk about trying to take a vacation, but we have our new puppy Gracie, which I talked about last month, and we just don't feel like we can leave her right now. She's just 6 months old, so it's kind of hard to leave her with anybody. But we thought about getting the car and just driving to somewhere. So we thought maybe the Outer Banks, but it's just as far away as I said in one of the other videos. From Louisville to the ocean is just going to be 10 hours no matter what.
Yes.
So. Well, I think that looks like a beautiful area.
Yeah, it really is. It's just it's a little risky with the hurricane season.
Yeah.
Because last year when we went, we were actually on our way there, and we got a hurricane warning.
Um,
And we had just finished driving about 10 hours, and we thought we were gonna have to turn around and go
Leave.
inland to stay and wait it out. But luckily, it just missed the island we were on.
Oh,
So we
good.
got really lucky. But
What was the name of the island?
Nag's Head.
Nag's Head. I've heard
Yep.
of that.
Yep. So the hurricane just passed a bit south of Nag's Head, so we got lucky.
Kathy, have you been down in Florida when there's been hurricanes, I guess?
We have, but you know, like Emma said, we've been lucky. So I was actually down there on a girls' trip one time, and there was a hurricane that was coming through. This has been years ago, and we just hunkered down and we got a bunch of candles and just. But then it's weird because then once it passes, it's like the next day, it's beautiful.
Right.
And it's like
Clear
sunshiny, and you
yeah.
never even know anything was. I think that was the only time we were really down.
Really close. So I'm taking just, Kathy, I don't know if you've gotten to the point where the sand and the water meet. I'm taking the chisel end of my brush, loading just a little clump of white, and then tapping that so it looks like a little froth, a little frothy water washing in. Kind of gives some energy to that wave. Oh. I can tell it's almost lunchtime. Okay, so we're going to take a break and let you all get caught up. We've got our fluffy sand, our beautiful blue water, and a bright blue sky. And we'll take a break and maybe even have a little intermission chat, and see you back here in a minute. Okay, Kathy, we're in the studio now. This is actually, I think, the first time I've shot any of the videos in the studio where we all paint and gather. There's usually about 8 of us, maybe 10, 8 to 10 of us here. Kathy comes every Wednesday morning, and I think she's alternated days over the 8 years you've painted.
Yep. Fridays and Thursdays and yep.
Maybe Monday afternoons?
Maybe.
For a while too.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the way that the lessons are going so far? They're pretty easy?
So far, well, we haven't gotten the first
Yeah, we're all gonna think that's hard, but I'm gonna make that easy too. But yeah, Kathy painted her daughter on the beach. How many years ago did you paint that?
Oh gosh, maybe
When you
5
first
years
started
ago?
early
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
So I'll insert a picture of that. And Kathy also paints brides and paints them beautifully, and she has a little business of her own painting bridal portraits. And so I have put a card, her business card, in everybody's box this month. So you'll see Kathy's business card, and you can look online and see some of the beautiful examples of brides that she's painted. I go out on weekends and paint at weddings. I paint live, and this is the first dance that I painted a couple weeks ago at a wedding. It's a beautiful place here in Louisville called the Crystal Ballroom at the Brown Hotel. So it's full of crystal and mirrors, and it's beautiful. But Kathy has done these bridal portraits, and you can hire her to paint your bride or your picture as a bride. But anyway, we have fun in the studio here, don't we?
Oh my gosh, yes.
We really
So
do.
much fun.
And we all learn from each other.
Mhm.
So I'd love for you all to post on the Facebook page, and we can all make comments. They're not critical comments, they're very helpful and complimentary, and we're each other's cheerleaders more than anything.
Mhm.
So if you can do that on the group page, it's your Paint Box group, and we'll all get on there. And I love to get to know my students. They all become lifelong friends, and I want to do the same thing with you all, get to know you all a little bit better. So please send me messages and get on Facebook and friend me, either Kathryn Gray or Kathryn B. Gray on Instagram, or the Your Paint Box page. So any of those are ways that you can stay in touch with us. And we're going to get back to the painting now. Okay, we took a nice break there, sitting in the studio. Like I said, we have a lot of fun in that room.
It's really like therapy.
It is. It's a wonderful group
Our
therapy.
little therapy group.
It is. Each class, the longer they paint together, the closer they all become as friends, and we learn about each other's families. And oops, I think I just moved that a little. That's good. Okay, we're gonna start the part that makes everybody nervous. People avoid painting people because they think it's really hard, but we're gonna make it easy. And I've made dozens and dozens of skin tone formulas over the years. And about 2 years ago, I realized, what about if we take a little white and just a little bit of this burnt sienna? Speaking of sienna, I wanted to show you all a picture of my little dog named Sienna because she was groomed yesterday and they put the prettiest little bows in her hair.
Oh my gosh, she was so cute.
I'm gonna have to get her in the video.
She greeted me when I came in today.
And look at that, white with just a little speck of.
Okay, I did way too much.
Well, we're gonna do 3 shades
Okay.
of skin color. So the first one is just her light pale. And that, like I said, I've made so many skin formulas over the years, and that is just
Wow.
so
Yeah,
easy.
That is so easy.
And it does depend on what brand of burnt sienna you're using. Not all of them would work quite that well, but I'm going to put a little more burnt sienna in this. And if it looks, oh, that's nice. So I have a really light tone where it's going to be on the side where the sun is hitting her shoulder and the side of her leg. And then I've got kind of a medium color. And then I'm gonna make the dark shadow color on the skin, which always scares everyone. I've never had a student ever, when I make this shadow color, they think, I'm not gonna put that on my daughter's picture. And I'm not gonna put dark gray for her skin. So I'm gonna make kind of a warm gray. I'm going to take a little burnt umber, maybe a little burnt sienna, to make that warm brown, and then I have to make it kind of gray, I'm going to put a little speck of the ultramarine in there. And then I have to add a little bit of white, well, it's too brown. I'm going to do that, just put it aside, pick up half to correct it. Needs a little more blue in there. I want a little bit gray. A little more blue. And it's really dark, so I'm going to lighten that up. As Kathy knows, I walk around all day saying, that needs to be darker. Everybody can put in highlights all day long. When you start asking them to put in the darks, they're very afraid.
That is so true. And yet when you do, it's like, it just adds the dimension. You're like,
yes.
Oh my gosh, it's perfect.
That's how you get the depth. You gotta have those grays and the darker colors to get any kind of depth. So I'm gonna take my brush and just sweep and pick up that paint. That's the lightest skin color. I'm gonna start on her back. I forgot to draw a line where her swimsuit is, but we'll just. Now this is the part Kathy was mentioning, and I know Morgan did last month, when I'm putting in this light flesh color and we're going really close to the dark blue water. How do you keep them from getting all mushed together? So this is where, even though I paint generally fast, and I just picked up some blue, I'm keeping the paint on the tip of my brush, and I'm kind of almost drawing in there so that I don't get into the blue water. So you might have to turn your brush sideways, keep it narrow. Are you picking up water?
Yeah. Of course I am.
I did too, but we're gonna come in at the end and we can fix all that. Oh, I really just got it all in there
Oh
now.
man.
It's all right.
Me too. She's got a blue shoulder.
Yeah, I got it on the shoulder too. So I'm gonna take that medium skin tone and maybe the arm that's over here, her left arm, is a little darker than the right arm because my nose too. On this one it was a little skinny. I'm gonna fatten that up. The sun is coming from the right side, so I'm going to just have that flesh tone be a little darker on her left side of her back and her left arm, and I'll go ahead and just start taking that down her left leg. So turn that brush sideways if you need to have a narrower brush. And my angle has to be a little higher. You know, I was talking about keeping your angle low for those long watery brush strokes and sky, but if you need to lift up that angle of the brush a little bit, because you're almost having to try to draw that skin color in. I'm going to take the dark shadow color and put that in under her arm. I'm going to add a little warmth to that. I just put a little more burnt sienna and some of that shadow color. I'm still trying to leave a gap area between where I'm putting her skin color in and the water. It's leaving that yellow ochre drawing line showing through.
Of course, it would have helped too if I brought my readers.
I think I have an extra pair if you want me to get them during the next break. You probably don't need them all day, every day like I do.
I probably should, but.
So I'm putting a shadow under the side of each arm. The shadow I made is a little bit, maybe too gray, so I'm just tapping into my burnt sienna, that reddish brown, picking up a little bit of warmth. So she's got a little shadow on her shoulder. And I don't think I'm going to try to develop the body much more before I put in the bathing suit, because it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's going on until we get that bathing suit in there. So same with the legs, the left side is in shadow and the right side is getting that brighter sunlight. I'm using the lighter color. And you can pick up your canvas and turn it around and tap that little light highlight color in there if you need to. So Kathy, I'm going to make the bathing suit color, and then we'll come back to that body in either the last step and take a look at it. But bathing suit color, I'm going to use this phthalo green. I'm just going to put down a little phthalo green right there. That's going to be the shadow side. And then on the light side, I'm going to put phthalo with white. And I just love the contrast of that turquoise color bathing suit against that blue water. So just those two colors, a light side and a dark side for the bathing suit. So I'm going to start with that dark side. I'm just going to put in some dark just right over on that left edge. Then I'm going to come in with the lighter paint. And you can change that little body shape to match maybe somebody you know. And then I'm going to come back in on the right side where that sunlight's hitting. And I'm going to just add white right into that. So I'm picking up white with the end of my brush and just going to tap some white highlights. So Kathy was saying a little while ago, the darks and of course the lights give you that three-dimensional look. And so that bathing suit and her little body would not look nearly as three-dimensional if we hadn't put those darks and lights on there. I'm going to wrap some of those darks around the side of her a little bit. She's still looking a little one-dimensional. before, I'm not even gonna finish the bathing suit. I'm gonna go put her hair in, because until we get her hair in, I think it's gonna be too hard to judge what's going on with everything else. We need kind of more parts and pieces filled in before I can kind of see if I like what I've got here.
I wonder if maybe I might do her a blonde.
I think you should make yours a blonde.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and follow this brunette here that looks like my daughter. So I'm going to pick up the burnt umber brown for her hair, but that's a little bit too much of a chocolate, like a milk chocolate brown. So I'm going to add some ultramarine blue in there to get it to be a little darker, like brunette. And I'm going to use just that one color to start with, and I may tap some light brown highlights in, because again, she's going to have highlights coming from the top right side of the painting into her hair from the sun. We're kind of thinking that the sun angles up here from this side. So I'm going to just brush in brunette first. And I'm being very careful as I get close to the blue, trying not to touch that over there. That's one nice thing about this brush. It has a really nice chisel end and two corners, so you can use those corners to just kind of get close to the sky. And then what I did, I'm putting it on the brown paint on the chisel end of that brush again, and I'm going to just tap down some little braids for her. Kind of use the corner of the brush and just tap in some braids, kind of like how one was kind of blowing in the wind over here. Now I'm just going to take my brush, even though it has a little brown on it, I'm just going to go over here to this white and just start swooshing in some little highlights on the side of her. We'll let Kathy make up some blonde highlights over there.
So my darker looks green.
And when you paint blonde hair, I just painted that blonde portrait, Kathy, and I'm looking at your blonde hair right now. The more ashier shades in blonde usually we put like yellow ochre in there, and yellow ochre has a lot of green in it. Okay. And I think, well, you can see that painting right there that I did of the blonde. There's a lot of green in that hair. Okay. So when you're painting blonde hair, if it looks a little greenish, that's probably okay. I have some students who spent a long career as a hairdresser, and they know how to mix color because they say they do it all day long.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they'll see if there's a little blue or a little red or a little green, and I never thought about that.
Right.
All right, so now that I have a little bit of her head in, I can see the proportions of her body and her back and her bathing suit a little bit better now. I'm gonna put highlights again up here, maybe some bigger ones. Now I always tell students, reserve the use of highlights. There should really only be one major white highlight on a painting, because the white highlight is so distracting. I think on this painting here, I have the white handle on the bucket, and that will probably be the only pure white. That's a mistake a lot of beginners make, is because we all like those highlights so much, we put them all in as bright white, and most often they're tinted to another color. So I'm going back to her body now, filling out. So I like the way her little backside is hanging out of that bathing suit. So cute.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
And so I'm going to put that back in. And I didn't really actually get her hand in before. Over here, so I'm going to take the corner of my brush. I'm just going to tap close to that blue paint, put some little fingers in. Don't have to be too exact. We can just implying things in a painting is so much more interesting for everybody than actually drawing everything in detail. So if you like this kind of painting, it's because you like kind of that implied impressionism, and it's more fun for the viewer because the viewer wants to see what you saw differently. I'm going to, so I just got a little water in there. I'm going to take that medium color and the medium flesh color and put in her little feet in the sand.
Oopsie.
And yeah, when I say oopsie in class, everybody kind of gets nervous.
You're teaching,
Yeah,
for
no.
sure.
Your teacher's making mistakes. I don't know. Yes, we all make mistakes all the time. We just don't beat ourselves up over it. So I'm bringing that shadow down on her legs. I'm not going to worry about it too much now because remember I said that's what that last step is for. Even filling in those gaps, which I'm kind of doing now, we're going to take that into the last step as well. And I'm just going to take the chisel end of that brush and maybe draw in these little creases. And if you've seen kids at the beach, this looks pretty much the way it is.
Their little bottom is so cute.
So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put in that pink bow on the back of her bathing suit. So what I'm going to do, this purple red that comes in this kit is very purpley. So I'm going to mix that, a little tiny bit of that purple red and a little tiny bit of the vermilion, and just put them together and add some white, and we should get a nice bright pink. Yeah. You know, maybe, I tell you what, I'm going to put that aside. I'm not sure I like that. I'm going to take just the vermilion with white, because that purpley red is very purple. And I'm going to put just a little of that vermilion, purple red back in. And that can be the bow color. Actually, I'm really not sure which pink I like better. I'd like to go get that fluorescent pink that I keep in my top drawer. We get it out once in a while, and we have really bright pink flowers to paint. And so I'm going to take the chisel end of that brush again and just tap in some little straps for her bathing suit. And I think it kind of meets together in the middle with a bow. And so again, this is maybe more drawing with the end of that brush. So the detail comes in at the end with a little drawing. And that bow does not look very good. There, that's a little better. And I'll fix it in the last step.
You did the vermilion brush.
And I think we'll take a break here, let you all get caught up, and then we'll come back and we'll paint in the little pail and talk about finishing up. Okay, I'm going to call this the final step. We're going to put in her little bucket and then fill in our little gap areas between where our drawing was between colors and fix anything else we think we need to fix. For the pail, I wanted a really warm reddish orange, so I'm going to use the vermilion, which really we would also call cadmium red. So I'm going to use that color just straight for the bucket color, but I am going to take some of this shadow from her hair. A shadow side to the bucket. So there'll be 3 colors on that bucket, just like I keep saying almost everything else, so that you have the actual color, a shadow color, and a highlight. So I'm going to take that vermilion color first, and we'll just paint that right down the center of the bucket. And then I'm going to take the shadow color, put put it on the left side where we've got all the other shadows on the left side. Clean off my brush, pick up the lighter color. I'm gonna maybe turn my pen this way and tap in that lighter color. And then I'll blend those colors together. Just kind of drag my brush a little bit. I'm going to pick up some more watercolor. I think my bucket got kind of like out of shape.
Yeah.
It's got long,
Mine did
long,
too.
skinny bucket.
No, mine did too.
So I'm shortening it up just a little bit. There. Rounding out the bottom of it a little.
Mine got really little.
And I'll go back and put in some more color so she can be holding on to the top of it here.
And of course I got some water in the bucket.
And not in a good way, right?
Not in a good way, not inside the bucket.
And I think now I see that I need to have a shadow on that hand that's holding the bucket. Right about there. Ooh, the shadow's a little dark. Way dark. Lighten that up. Filling in some of those gap areas. So let's see, I've got some gap areas right here. And one thing we need to do too is, because we have all the sunlight coming from the right, she's going to have a nice long shadow cast across the sand. Pretty. And just kind of swish it across here, coming from her feet. That's where her feet touch the ground is where the shadow will start. And then just kind of follow her arm going out. And of course it comes from the other foot too. And her feet have a little shadow around them because they're down in the sand. So I just finished putting the shadow in on the sand under our little girl here, and I'm going to put the handle on the bucket. So we're going to take, this is where I use that tip, that chisel end of the brush, getting it in the white, and I'm just going to kind of tap on top of that blue. And each time I tap, I'm going to be picking up blue and wiping it off again. Just draw a little handle. That was pretty easy. Just got to get enough paint on the end of that brush that you can tap on top of the blue. So I always say, if you had a white cake and you wanted to ice, you had a cake and you iced it all white, and then you wanted to ice, this is an example that my son was making a Valentine's cake for his girlfriend. It was all white, and then he said he wanted to ice a red heart on top of that. And I said, well, you're going to have to just kind of drop that red icing down on top of the white icing. So that's kind of when oil painting, excuse me, I'm putting that white handle in and just kind of dropping it on top of the blue. So Kathy and I made an executive decision during the last break, and I had to get out my fluorescent pink right here, because we just thought that would look so cute to have this bow on the back of her suit be bright fluorescent pink. And I don't have fluorescent pink tubes to send in the mail to all of you. But if you had some paint at home, somewhere, some craft paint, you could probably put a little pink bow on her. I just couldn't get that other red and pink to show up. Put a cute little bow back here. And actually, I'm going to take my palette knife and just kind of scrape out. My bow got completely out of hand. I'm going to scrape that paint off. You can take the end of your palette knife or a Q-tip. I'm going to paint her skin back in and paint a prettier bow. Don't be afraid to get a Q-tip out or a palette knife or something to scrape your paint off and start again if you need to. So I just put her back in there again, and I'm going back in with my fluorescent pink. tie a cute little bow in there for her. Whoop. And that paint is not moving well for me. Did you try your fluorescent pink yet?
Yes.
And it went on there okay?
Well, I
Goodness.
just kind of tap.
That's what
like
I'm
it,
just tapping, but it doesn't seem to be going on at all. It may be because it's not water-based and it's not, it's regular oil. So whose idea was that?
I'm such a pink girl anyway.
I know, I am too, Kathy. Yes, I can't help it. I like pink.
Me too.
I see a whole little area on her body that I didn't even paint in. So this is the final step is for looking around. Like I feel like this hand's a little small. I'm gonna make that hand a little bigger.
Bring out my hands too.
This hand holding the bucket, I'm not even sure what that looks like. I'm going to skinny that up. There we go, just doing that. Skinny that up around her hand a little bit. And I think this arm needs a little bit of this watercolor coming up to it so it doesn't look so out of shape. Maybe make her wrist a little skinnier. And then I think her shoulder right here needs to be, I'm going to turn this canvas, give her a little more shoulder. And sometimes we have to look at a painting for a day or two before we even see something, because there's so many things going on in our mind about every little thing in this painting that sometimes you just miss something until a day or two later.
Well, and I'm looking right now and I can see that my shadows are not dark enough.
Yeah, I noticed that on her skin. Even I did what I said all my students do.
Yeah.
I didn't get her shadows dark enough. So I'm going to go in there right now and address that as well, Kathy. I'm going to go to my burnt umber, I think, just umber by itself. And I'll insert that little picture I pointed out on the studio wall there of Ellie on the beach, because you'll notice, if you look at paintings of children on the beach, you'll notice if it's bright sunlight, those shadows are pretty dark. And like Kathy said earlier, if you get the shadows in correctly, then the highlights are going to look really warm and sunny. I still have a problem with this one arm. I think I need to put some more water up under here to make her arm longer. That helped a little.
Well, and too, with me doing the blonde too,
Oh, it looks great. I can't wait for
washes
everybody
it
to
out a little
see it. All right. Yeah, so I have much stronger lighting on the original painting that I did there, so I think I'm going to add a little more, maybe burnt sienna down the middle of her leg. Maybe add a little highlight to her hair. There we go, that's nice. That got a much bigger highlight on her hair, that helped. And same with her bathing suit. I noticed, Kathy, on yours, see, sometimes we look at each other's and go, well, that's a good idea. You have a lighter highlight. I think I had it on the side of her suit, but I brushed it right out again, which happens a lot in painting. We put something in and then inadvertently take it right out again. But I think I'm ready to call this project done and be happy with it and sign it.
Yeah, we don't have Leala here to say, sign it.
I know. Whenever I forget to tell people to sign it, if Leah is filming with us, she'll say, don't forget to tell them to sign it and be proud of it. All right. So for many of you, that might have been the first time you've ever painted a person, and you should really be proud of it. And send me some pictures, email or Facebook or Instagram. Send me some pictures. And I do have a drawing each month for those of you who post a comment. I put you in a drawing for a gift card. All right, Kathy, we'll sit in the studio here and talk about our projects, and we can take a look at your little blonde girl. All right?
Awesome.
Okay, here we are back in the front foyer at the studio where we do our filming. It was fun today, wasn't it?
That was
Kathy?
really fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to do the big reveal on our paintings now. So here's my little brunette, and there's Kathy's little blonde. And we were just talking about how color changes the composition. So with the dark hair, it ties the composition kind of into the blue water. But with Kathy's, with the light hair, I think the composition ties into this light sand and the light sky. So both work, but anytime you change something in a composition or change a color, it will change the painting quite a bit. So Kathy's painting is what we would call high key, meaning it's really all the higher, lighter values of color. And mine has maybe a little more low key, a little more dark just because of the color of that hair. So, thank you, Kathy, for coming in.
Oh, my pleasure.
And here, show them this little card of yours and tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is just my Love to Grace is my wedding portraits that I do, and it's got my website on there, and or my not my website. I'm sorry, my Instagram and phone number and email and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And like I said, I'll put some examples of the wedding portraits in the video.
awesome.
And we were just talking here about my flowers from the garden that I cut this morning. The gardens are looking great here in Louisville this summer because we've had so much rain. And it's still rainy, a cloudy day today too.
Yep.
But thank you for coming in and joining us and painting.
Absolutely.
And we'll get you to come back in and do another project.
We
Okay?
love it.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Emma, too. We'll see you all next time. Bye.